Centuries from now, travelers will arrive in Venice and forget to breathe. They will see marble palaces rising from green water, St. Mark's Basilica burning with gold, and black gondolas sliding under stone bridges. Merchants will count pepper, silk, glass, contracts, and coins from distant ports. For a long time, Venice will look like a miracle. No fields, no solid ground. Yet rich enough to bend crusaders, steal relics, command trade routes, and hang trophies from dying empires on its churches. But that is the polished version. Before the marble, there is mud. Before the gold, there is rot. Before the gondolas, there are wooden stakes hammered into a drowning world. Before Venice becomes a throne built on water, it is a mistake on the map, a saltwater wound, a swamp that stinks at low tide and vanishes at high tide. Rome builds roads across mountains and aqueducts over valleys. But here, the ground moves, the water lies. The mud swallows weight. Then the 5th century tears open. Attila's horsemen move through northern Italy. Cities that trusted stone gates burn. Refugees run east toward reeds, fever, brine, mosquitoes, and silence. Down in the mud, a strange rule appears. Wood should rot, but under brackish water, where oxygen barely reaches, alder piles do not die the normal death of wood. What should decay begins to stiffen like bone. So the miracle begins without trumpets. Not with marble, not with saints, with stakes. Men drive timber into the lagoon bed until the hammer blows stop sounding hollow. Alder trunks vanish into black clay, then planks, then stone, then pale Istrian limestone, over the drowned forest. Now the camera drops, not a king, not a senator, not a merchant beside the Grand Canal. Down there, in freezing mud, a refugee grips a wooden mallet until the skin breaks around the fingers. Salt water climbs to the knees. A child coughs behind wet cloth. Behind the reeds, hooves beat the mainland road. The foreman shouts for faster hands. The tide answers first. Water rises against the unfinished platform. The mortar must set before the next wave tears the work apart. No one is building beauty. This is terror trying to make mud hold human weight. The ugly truth beneath Venice's future glory is simple. The city rises because the mainland is a trap. Hunger has no poetry, and mud is still better than the sword behind you. The freezing tide is rising. Stay on the mainland and trust old walls that already failed, or dive deeper into the suffocating mud and build a floor above nothing. What is your move? Years pass, the mallet becomes a ledger. The torn hands learn numbers. How many piles before the tide? How much timber before winter? How many exhausted men can be pushed before they stop being useful? The lagoon teaches one lesson. Mercy that arrives too early gets buried. A man who once begged for one dry blanket now decides who sleeps under a roof. Faster, straighter, deeper. Again, that is Power's first shape. Someone else moves while the hand giving the order stays dry. Then the city opens its iron heart, the arsenal. Inside those walls, Venice stops looking like a miracle and starts sounding like a machine. Timber ribs, hammer beats. Parts wait before the ship exists. A galley moves through the yard like an animal assembled bone by bone. One group cuts, one group bends, one group seals. Every man becomes a motion, every motion becomes a part, every part becomes a weapon. The old refugee is still somewhere inside the chest, but he is quiet now. If one crew collapses, another takes the rope. If a boy's hand is crushed, the ledger receives a mark and the work continues. Promotion comes wrapped as praise. Good eye, hard hand, useful mind. The mud rat becomes a supervisor inside the Republic's engine. A warm meal arrives, dry boots arrive. Shame rises, then bread crushes it back down. A dry room, a better cloak, a name written higher on a list. A hand no longer forced into cold water unless it chooses to point. Outside, men still hammer piles into mud. Inside, another kind of pile is driven into the soul. Survival begins to resemble character. Venice wants more than ships. A city built on mud needs a soul strong enough to frighten rivals. A saint can make a swamp look chosen by God. So the order comes quietly. Alexandria. St. Mark. Bring him home. The mission does not look holy. It looks like theft with incense added afterward. Merchants slip into the city where the saint's remains rest. A body that once belonged to faith becomes cargo. Then comes the trick. The remains are hidden beneath pork. The basket stinks. The guards hesitate. Beneath that smell, Venice carries away its future symbol. A dead evangelist becomes the flag of a rising maritime empire. The ship cuts through the night. Prayers mix with lies. As the bones lie under rotting pork, one clean sentence forms in the mind. It is not sin if it builds the city. Once that sentence exists, almost anything can be forgiven. A century turns. The lagoon city learns to speak in contracts, sails, and knives hidden behind signatures. The old mud settlement is now a maritime predator wearing silk. It has docks, ships, credit, and patience sharpened into a blade. Then the crusaders arrive, crosses on their cloaks, empty purses underneath. They want passage to the Holy Land. They speak of Jerusalem, salvation, vows, and glory. Venice listens, then counts timber, rope, sailors, food, and risk. That failure becomes a chain around their throats. Doge Enrico Dandolo, old and blind, sees the opening. If the Holy Army cannot pay in silver, it can pay in obedience. So the direction changes, not Jerusalem first. Zara, a Christian city, a rebellious city, a city Venice once punished. On deck, the sea wind tastes of iron. The knights sing hymns that do not fit the target ahead. Crosses face crosses. Walls carry Christian bells. Still, the ships move forward. There is no demon in this story, only accounting, only unpaid debt. Only a city that turns sacred promises into leverage. The order passes along the oars. Pull, land, breach, take. A former mud worker now commands men who never saw the first lagoon piles. The hand that once trembled in cold water now points toward a Christian wall. Below, sailors wait for loot. Above, priests search for flexible language. Venice wins by making debts louder than prayers. When the army of God becomes the army of your invoice, does the cross still shine, or has it already become a hook? Then the impossible prize appears, Constantinople. The city of domes, mosaics, relics, silk, walls, and imperial memory. Venice, once traded beneath its shadow. Now the ships approach like wolves that learn mathematics. The walls are histories stacked into height, yet ships press close. Ladders rise. Fire jumps. The old empire opens. The Fourth Crusade does not end with Jerusalem delivered. It ends with Constantinople broken. Relics, silver, books, and bronze move from one world into another. From the hippodrome come the bronze horses. They are carried away and installed at St. Mark's, trophies of a city that decorates its church with the spoils of others. The former Byzantine allies kneel in smoke and dust. The blade waits. The empire behind you needs roots watered with betrayal. Hesitation is not mercy here. Hesitation is a gap someone else will occupy. What gets saved, the soul or the city? Climb high enough and the mud disappears from view. Now the room is private. Thick walls, low voices, maps spread across a table, spice routes drawn like veins, pepper, silk, salt, insurance, debt. Every cargo ship is a moving pulse in the body of the Republic. Every port is a finger reaching outward. Every treaty is a hook hidden inside polite language. From this height, Venice does not look like a city built on fear. It looks calm, organized, chosen. A seat among the powerful should feel like victory. Instead, the air tightens. Venice does not trust its own winners. Power here is watched, weighed, recorded, suspected, and surrounded. The Council of 10 becomes the shape of that suspicion. Behind golden processions and smiling masks, a colder city operates in whispers. Names move through corridors. Accusations move through cracks. A sentence written in secret can travel faster than a ship. Anyone can become evidence. Anyone can become useful. Anyone can become dangerous. Outside, stone mouths, waiting walls. A neighbor can feed one a letter. A servant can sell one a rumor. A friend can survive by turning first. Down in the mud, danger had a shape, tide, hunger, cold, hooves. Up here, danger has handwriting. It has seals. It wears perfume. It smiles across the table and asks about your family. The city grows rich enough to fear the sight of its own wealth. Even boats become declarations of rank. Families compete in color, carving, silk, gold trim, and display. One palace tries to outshine the next. One procession tries to shame the last. Every polished surface asks the same question: who owns more of the world? The Republic understands the danger. Too much beauty becomes evidence. Too much luxury becomes accusation. Then the order arrives, black. Paint the gondolas black. Strip vanity into uniform darkness. Let every family glide through the canals inside the same color of restraint. Let wealth hide under lacquer. Let ambition wear mourning clothes. The city does not destroy pride. It gives pride a uniform. So the canals fill with black boats. They slide beneath bridges like polished coffins. Perfume fights, sewage rising from the water. A palace balcony gives a perfect view of rot. From the window, the lagoon still shines. But memory knows what lies below. The city stands because nameless hands drove a drowned forest into mud. The palace rests on labor it refuses to remember. The Republic calls this civilization. The water calls it weight, and somewhere beneath the marble, the old mud keeps holding its silence. Then, a rumor crosses the sea faster than any galley can stop it. Portuguese ships have found a road around Africa. The spice monopoly no longer needs Venice as its throat. A route bends around the Cape, and centuries of leverage begin to loosen. The empire is wounded by navigation, mathematics, and wind. The world grows larger, and Venice grows smaller inside it. That is the cruelest kind of defeat. Not a wall broken by siege, not a fleet burned in one afternoon. A map changes somewhere far away, and the value of your entire system begins to drain away. The same pepper still burns the tongue. The same silk still shines in candlelight. The same ships still creak against the docks. But the old routes no longer hold the world by the throat. The ocean has moved on. The machine built from mud, relics, contracts, and betrayal keeps turning. Yet every turn produces less future. So the paranoia grows heavier. More reports, more spies, more black boats moving through narrow canals at night. The city cannot admit that geography has betrayed it, so it searches for traitors inside its own walls. When power becomes obsolete, does it become wisdom or paranoia? Centuries later, the final enemy does not need to drain the lagoon or batter every wall. Napoleon arrives with the speed of a new age, and Venice discovers that 1,000 years can still end in an afternoon. The old tricks no longer work. The contracts feel thin. The ceremonies feel slow. The masks still smile, but the room behind them has gone quiet. In 1797, the Republic falls. The last Doge steps away from the stage. The Navy becomes inventory for victors. The arsenal is plundered. The golden Bucentoro is stripped and burned. It's gold harvested from a dead symbol. A state that once measured the world in cargo, debt, islands, and oaths is reduced to signatures on surrender papers. A golden boat cracks under the hands of men who do not worship it. The city that stole saints, bent crusaders, looted emperors, and dressed paranoia in marble now watches its sacred theater become firewood. No miracle rises from the lagoon this time. Only smoke above the water, only silence in the council rooms, only the soft, final sound of history removing a crown from a city that thought it could never kneel. Now the camera rises again. Gondolas slide black through green water. The old piles remain compressed in darkness, still holding weight long after the hands that drove them have become dust. But the water has not forgotten. Venice is protected today by MOSE, Mobile barriers built to seal the lagoon during dangerous high tides. It also asks a harder question. How often can a lagoon be closed before the cure starts to resemble a cage? Humans drive stakes into mud and call it salvation. Then they build walls against water and call it control. The lagoon waits in foundations, in salt, in every stone that leans a little more than yesterday. The water does not need revenge. Salt enters. Stone leads. Foundations settle. Tides return. What men call disaster, the lagoon may call memory. A beautiful city remains, but beauty is not innocence. Sometimes beauty is a polished confession. Look back now. The alder piles vanishing into black clay. The arsenal hammer rhythm. The warm bread after promotion. The saint hidden beneath pork. The crusaders trapped by debt. Zara burning in the name of unpaid transport. Constantinople opened like a treasury. Bronze horses carried west. Lion mouths waiting for secrets. Napoleon at the door. Modern gates rising from the sea to save the city by interrupting the sea itself. Survival always arrives with a reasonable voice. One more pile, one more lie, one more stolen relic, one more redirected army, one more betrayed ally, one more sealed gate, and still, the mud remembers. This is your final choice. A life began with bare feet in freezing sludge and ended in rooms where other people's fates could be moved like counters across a map. The empire rose because hunger learned engineering, fear learned accounting, faith learned propaganda, and water learned patience. You crawled out of the stinking mud, built an empire on betrayal and petrified wood, only to leave behind a beautiful sinking tomb. Was the throne worth your soul? Drop your choice in the comments. What do you do?